And hello! Tired of playing by metagame rules? It's time to rewrite them. We're going to counter build and we're going to create a rebellion. This video will arm you with the ultimate anti-meta blueprint designed to systematically dismantle the most dominant decks in the game. Prepare to shock and awe your opponents and refine what it's meant to be or what is meant by competitive. So, this is part 2 in the series. Now we'll get into the actual meta deck analysis.
Let's go.
Alright, this video will be kinda long, so we'll have timestamps showing what decks being analyzed where, and let's begin.
So, let's get straight into it. Trying to keep these videos brief, this is part 2. I'm sure you've heard the saying, know thy enemy, right? So, we'll be going through only the first 10 of these decks. These are the top 10 decks. We'll start bottom up. Number 10 is Flareon box. So we'll take a look at that. Right, so Flareon box is basically a play on Tera box, which functions by having your Tera Pokemon on board and then using the options given from Noctowl to get them out of and in the best possible situation. So ignore that. You'll hear a cat making noise. She decides it's a kitten I adopted and she's very, very needy. So there we go. If any sucking noise and she's suckling also, so problems. Right. So looking at this already, you see in the main part is card selection, meaning the Hoothoot and Noctowls are actually the key components of this deck. And that's why I said the normal field card is your friend. It basically shuts down this deck for the most part because it makes them unable to find their options right away. Unless they have the field cards in hand to break it, they won't be able to find the items and supporters as quickly to take advantage. Thing to note, it also stops the EVEX, that's Team Rocket's Watchtower, so this deck is quite easy to stop and is all about knowing target selection. Because they won't be able to just pick the options and get their best option, the decks usually stutters. Also, a big blowout in these decks is shuffling their hand early game, not Zero Sec, Iono, or a Judge early game to send their Noctowls to the bottom when they bring them with Fan Rotom, and these decks usually fall flat on their face. Yes, they run one copy, but that's an equalizer. And that's why they run so much small copies of stuff, because they can actually just search and find them. The energies are also very mixed because they are utilizing the Crispin and their Trumpet to maximize getting whatever energies they need on their EVs before evolving them up. So that's the first one. So again, know your enemy and know what to look for, what are the weaknesses. If you're unable to do this early game, you will need to then dismantle the pieces they brought to their hand, because as you can see, because the deck is so precise, there isn't much in the line of recovery besides a stretcher typically. Meaning the Zero Sec again would be able to just take the pieces out of this deck. Because once they lose the energy, they won't be able to attack, and the deck once again falls short. Thing to note, Briar is there as an option to just get them that final win when again your opponent sends exactly 2 prizes. You can take a 3 or 4 prize turn and just win the game. So again, pretty simple deck, very straightforward, so not that much to lose to. Again, after a couple matches, you'll see the patterns and what are your priority targets and how you take apart the deck and how you play them. Next, we have Ceruledge. So Ceruledge functions by trying to draw as much cards as possible and use that to find energy to discard. So these are not the only cards in the deck, by the way. These are just the most common cards in the deck. Of course, you'll have the super energy retrievals. So we look here, these are placements. So you look at an exact list. As you see in the exact list, we have super rods, we have blue torch, we have looking for some retrievals here. Shocking and some interesting structures and we can see vessels and stuff. So seeing again not much any sensory retrieval besides the super rod. And this is one of the top decks. And I was saying again, even though we are equipped against many decks that have different variations, again, I'm still not seeing a super energy retrieval, just stretcher, super rod, and they pulling the energies they need out of their decks or going to draw into them using the said Lunatone and Solrock. So you're going down again, because remember, these decks are seeking to draw and discard those energies, and the only recovery is mainly for the Pokemon, namely the Ceruledge. So, if you can actually get rid of the Ceruledges in these games, you need to dismantle their ability to discard energies and get them in the grave to stop Ceruledge. Remember, it does damage for each of the fire energies, not their fire energies, sorry, all energies in general in their grave. This one's a bit more tricky because all they need to do is discard, and once they reach a critical mass, so they have enough energy in the grave, they can start knocking out. So, again, it's all about getting rid of early disruption, early setup, and you'll start seeing that theme, that early setup is very key to a lot of these meta decks. And some early disruption, the right kind of disruption, always puts you in that place. Because they don't play recovery because they just want to dump, but they do play redundancy. So, then you have one stretcher, meaning if you get them to discard the Ceruledges and you get that stretcher, shit out of luck. Also, a lot of items. So, again, a Budew, and this will be a bit of a problem. Yes, once they hit critical mass, it's very hard, but again, in a prize race, you're just trying to map. So you're trying to map, target 2, 4, and possibly one of these, or 1, 2, 3, because they are going for this for sure, because they want to get that discard on free 6 cards. Then of course the Fez, or primarily Fez first, because that's a draw engine. Then you have one stretch. If they bring it back, you take Fez again, and there you go. That's it. Other than that, disrupt them to slow them down because they need the energy in the grave in order to stop you, and then common targets. So you try to prize map and how you play against the deck. Again, this isn't exactly anti-meta, meaning you have to adjust the entire deck. You simply adjust according to your opponent and again, know your enemy. So you need to know how a lot of decks function, and you then need to adjust your deck if you don't already have a way to deal with this and enough pieces. Because so far we are already seeing being able to just stop normal Pokemon getting rid of again, Squawk, another key piece, and having that hand disruption, which should already be in your deck. But enough of them so you'll be able to draw them and a good start like that. Then now you're seeing target selection is also important. So you're making sure you have enough boss or counter catchers is also very good. So let's go. We're going to move a little faster because you're up to around 8 minutes already. Next, the standard Tera box. Again, normal Pokemon. So you've seen already, just off the bottom, lots of items, lots of normal Pokemon. Budew and Team Rocket's Watchtower to even get rid of the Area 0 and the depths is a very good option, right? Beyond that, if you don't get the stop for your normal Pokemon to get them into all this target selection, because again, they are playing Lady's Devotions, right? Most decks have 1 copy, and most decks run 4 copies of these. So 100% means these are all in the deck in this exact value. So 3 Hoot Hoots, 4 Noctowls, 2 are the Wellspring Masks, So typically, these are what you would see. So if you could get rid of them, and again, single stretcher. If you want to look at exact deck list, because it's 7th and 31st place here, we'll see 2 stretchers, so slight deviation there. But then we go into 31st place, again 2 stretchers, 28th place in Korea. Let's see, Hunter Catcher, Glass 1 stretcher, but they have a super rod in there. So people try to cover their bases when you see weaknesses here. Other thing to note, the aspect of choice here is Sparkling Crystal, meaning the main attacker is the Tera Pokemon, mainly Pikachu and the Welspring Mask, because they are looking to take out your pre-evolution Pokemon on the bench, meaning your Dracloaks, your Drapies, before it could actually evolve into a bigger Pokemon. Also, the sub will also lock you from switching out, because, again, a lot of people using Latias over switches. As you can see from the previous list, they run at least 1 switch in the deck to be able to get out of a lock from sub or even the Velta with clutch and that kind of stuff. But again, proper price mapping. If you could stop this, you usually could slow them down. They have a couple of these terminations, so they could possibly draw into them, but that doesn't stop the field card. They're running at least 2 area zeros, so as long as you could keep them off, you're good to go. Because again, they need to get energy here, and the only acceleration is Crispin and their A-Spec. So if they don't get the Crispin, and again, at least 3 copies, you'll be able to do really well against them. Because again, the way they find their Crispin is the Noctowl. So priority to get off, or actually getting rid of their Tera Pokemon from the bench. Because if you can and have the option, take out their Tera Pokemon, and that takes this out, and that's their only attackers. Of course, they have Teal Mask as well, but this is more draw and counter play against Charizard. So again, priority targets things that you want to kill: Fez, Latias, and any of their attackers, and that's your 6 prizes. Or you can even go Fez, Latias, and Mew. You don't have to directly go for the attackers all the time. That's a decent price race there. Because again, they're running megas, so we'll see. And again, as you can see, lots of mixed energy. So, again, they need card selection. That's why they have Earth and Seal Vessel, and that's why they have the Crispin. Without those, they won't be able to actually attack you, and they just break. So that's why the Judge or the Zero-Sick can be useful. But as Zero-Sick, even if they keep the Noctowl in hand, they already lost so many resources, it's very hard to come back. Because if you can get the Revenge Kill and get rid of the energy, you're in a position to win quite easily. Let's go. That is our Terra box number 9 on the list. They tied for 10 apparently. Let's go to 8. That's the Mega Kanguskhan. And again, normal Pokemon with effects. So, Shutdown, that's their draw engine, because again, Iono isn't really just pure draw. And they're using this to keep the damage off, to use Monkey Dory to then supplement the damage from the Kangaskhan. Yes, they have acceleration, all of that, a bit of recovery, but again, they are playing a 3-prizer. With Penny, they will try to recover, and they're just trying to get a bit more bulky. But that doesn't matter, because you should be able to take this out in 2 hits, or knocking out 2 of these would win you the game. Or 1 of these, and then a 2-prizer, and then a 1-prizer here. Or even, they should have a second on the bench, taking out both of those. But again, the only source of draw power is the Kangaskhan. So, if you could get the Kangaskhan's draw engine out and the damage reduction out, you should be fine. But note, they have a lot of recovery, so you need to keep that in mind. A spec of choice, of course, Precious Trolley, to bring both Buffalons and just have that set up there. This is a good setup against those decks that are all effect Pokemon. They can't do anything, so just a Cornerstone alone could possibly win them the game as well. Or a late game, leaving only Cornerstone when you only have something like your Charizard against the Charizard decks and stuff like that is also an easy win. But again, know your enemy. For this one, I would say it's proper prize mapping. And again, once you drain the resources, they have no recovery. They're running just enough energy to get the attacks off and a bit more recovery. So if we go down here, 15th place, Buffalo and Sands. Yes, mommy. Sorry, there's my mom there. And we get into stretchers. We're not seeing any of the super rods or anything like that. So there you go. Let's go back, and that should be it. Pretty short here because the deck only has very few Pokemon in it. It's a very straightforward strategy. Let's go up to our Mega Lopunny. Again, pretty straightforward. All they want is to get some quick and clean knockouts. This is to hold you back, free retreat, so you can get in between sticking them, drawing cards, and setting up a really good attack. Because again, the main attacker is the Lopunny with that gate attack that does 230, and combine that with a Dusknoir against other Megas, you'll be able to actually just attack, take 3 prizes, and they won't be able to outright revenge kill. That's good. Also, the free retreat here is to allow my Pokemon to come back, jet energy up, and just keep the pressure on. Because you're trying to set up multiple Lopunnies to just get that in. Again, we're not seeing any actual draw power here beyond the Kanguskhan. Again, a Psyduck would stop this, and going up high on the list, we'll see. But again, still, Team Rocket Watchtower, a must, because so far we're up to number 5 on the list, and Watchtower stops main Pokemon in all of those decks. So if you go back here, just doing that bottom percentile, that's 2, 4, let's call it 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10% of the decks already getting stopped, and we haven't reached the top yet. Grimsnarl. Here, again, no Pokemon to stop, but we have the Marnie field card, so jamming that is very good to keep them from getting consistent pieces. This one's a bit more difficult, and luck of the draw, because they can simply have a well-placed secret box, bring field card, rare candy, and let's say a balloon to retreat, and they're all set right there. That's one of everything. Rare candy up into basic Pokemon. Search for this. Rare candy into it. Bam bam bam. Thank you, ma'am. Balloon onto whatever retreat Grimsnarl attacks, and off to the races. Problems. So very odd matchup. This one requires experience and knowing where to place your damage and what to knock out in situations. There isn't a one size fits all against Marnie Grimsnarl, which is unfortunate. It's also why it's this high on the list. But still, hand disruption to get rid of these pieces. You can see they have a lot more recovery, but they have to choose between the energy and their Pokemon. So again, we'll play 0-6 and trying to see what you could do there. So 0-6 still a good option. We still have a good option. Badu not as good, but can stop this. Again, stopping the spec, because again, could win the game or be very game changing already. So we're going up a bit higher. Next, we have Mega Absol box. So again, this deck is a bit of an anti-meta deck on its own already. We have the Psyduck to stop those plays from the Dusknoir line. We have Ursaluna for late game comeback. We have the Clutch to stick them from the drawers because not many people playing more than one switch. And we have Hand Disruption here on a stick as well as damage. We have draw power and a better bulk, so we very adaptable. We also have a way to switch out to get out of locks, as well as a late game powerhouse. We have quite a bit of recovery with Penny, Stretchers, and a spec of choice. Being Precious Charlie, we have card selection with Arvins, meaning they're able to find whatever they're looking for, even through a Budgie Lock, and minimal items, so the Budgie Lock wouldn't directly affect you as much. So pretty solid. But weakness here is they have no acceleration, meaning they have to manually go up, so they depend on sticking you with Yveltal or hoping you don't get out fast enough. Again, knowledge is power. So knowing the deck has a very, very slow start. What you need to do is prioritize getting rid of the Yveltal or their free retreat option first, because that is their bread and butter. Without the free retreat, the deck stutters because they don't have the excess energy to pay the retreat cost, as well as the switches or balloons to go back and forth. Because if you get rid of these and you're unable to recover them, sticking on a Suna in front is a good way to stop them. Of course, they have Petron, so again, priority targets 1, 2, 3, and this they're unable to stall you. They'll be swapping between the dark Pokemon to take damage. So Fez will be next option, giving them draw power. That's 3 prizes. And if you have enough power to take off the attacker while they load energy onto it. And this is not much of a worry if you have a Team Rocket's Watchtower in your pocket, because this is usually the comeback plan on late game. A late game Team Rocket Watchtower, wash the clothes. Again, it also stops the Kanguskhan. But again, knowing how to get around their setup and having the ability to. So you need to have things in order. So again, you need to have a good early attack to keep them offset, as well as knowing what targets you have and seeing already the importance of having some boss's orders. So the ability to do it. Not just the luck or the draw of having the card, but also the ability to get the cards there. So we move on to Gardevior. Again, formerly top deck. So this is an attacker, draw power, better damage reduction. Again, think to know their variants in the deck, because there's also the build with Jellicent, which is literally all the builds right now. Every build has Jellicent in it, even though it's not on the initial list, because Jellicent is also an item and tool lock. And with our Gardevior, be able to actually bring the 4 energy onto it and have that big attack. And they have enough backup with Screamtail, the Yancy, and the Monkey Dories to just offset that damage and just keep the pressure on. Because remember, they don't have to attach basic energy to anything usually. They just attach dark energy to their monkeys and off to the races. And of course, they have lots of draw power and card selection to aid that. 3 lilies at least, 95%, because the other 5% is 4 lilies. 4 and 98%, this is where they go either 3-4 or 4-3. So expect them to keep trying to draw cards. And that's why I keep saying the well play Zero Sec and knowing when to use it, because you need to try and get their cards and not their psychic energy with Zero Sec. So after you already ditch most of their psychic energy, that's when a good Zero Sec would happen, because they're now going to ditch resources and recovery. Because again, these are their only pieces of recovery. They can only return 5 cards. Energy and Pokemon, and knowledge is power. Not saying it's the easiest thing to do, but again, target selection. Yes, this is hitting hard. Yes, Monkey can put off the damage, but don't get too frustrated, because again we know they also have Jellicent, but you can boss out a Jellicent. So thing to note. And again, Jellicent's locking you. Once you get your attacker set up, priority targets. Gardy, or even being able to stop Gardy from getting one line, because at that point, deck contains 0 energy acceleration outside of Gardevior, and usually it's 2 copies. Just 2. So if one's prize, you could actually get rid of one early. They have to use recovery to get it back. And again, this A spec, if you jam it, that's where they get their target selection from. Other than that, it's literally trying to draw as fast as possible. And usually, a well-placed Budew or early game Budew is enough to keep the deck down for a while, if only they draw the Artisan. So you'll move on. Of course, next you have the Charizard. Again, very key piece. No Pokemon, that's their searcher. And they just try to get up as quick as possible. But remember, they only able to output that 180 damage without. The reason why deck has so much pieces is because, again, variation. We have Pidgeot Charizard, we have Noctowl Charizard. This will be a variant of the Tera box, because again, it's very easy to go up into a Charizard with Rare Candy and that, and then Noctowl to find key pieces. But again, same weakness, having that Team Rocket's Watchtower to stop. Charizard is a tough matchup, because they are very quick. But again, if you get rid of Charizard and get rid of the energy, it is quite difficult for them to come back, because it's a low energy deck, very quick. So again, it is synergy, or they have, what do you call that other option? Or a number of pieces. Because usually they try to get your deck to line up, or redundancy, sorry, synergy or redundancy. This deck has very little redundancy, but lots of synergy. So they rely very highly on Pidgeot to find things that they are missing, because naturally not as good. So again, if you can't outright kill the Charizard, priority targets are these two, or getting rid of the attack overall. But you need to get rid of the Pidgeot most of the time, because that ability to pull any card once per turn makes the match almost unwinnable. If you leave this long enough, they just rebuild the board. If you get rid of Pidgeot, then Charizard, or get rid of Fez, because if they're unable to set up a Charizard quick enough, getting rid of these means it's harder for them to find the Charizard. Because again, they just have an Ultra Ball and then hoping to not draw or get into it. So we'll see. Let's go in. At number 2, of course, we have our Dragapult. We should all be familiar with this by now. Lots of card selection. This is where Iono and your Zero Sec will shine. They are no longer using Rare Candy in most builds. My build uses Rare Candy, because I want to get around that slow setup. No A-Spec here, because A-Specs may vary, but well-placed destruction of resources, even because their hope is to Budew lock you while they set up and get card selection off, a constant shuffling their hand or losing energies, and problems, because again, they only have very few recovery options. So let's go. This is the Dust Snow build. So of course, a couple more nice stretchers, but thing to note, the healers, so you can find whatever evolution they need, and energy as well. But again, recovery options are quite limited, because again they are using a lot of Luminous and New Upper, meaning these are the only options. They 3 actual energy. Between that and of course the couple stretchers, if you're able to get rid of those special energies, they are cooked. They give up prizes, and again, they have a Blood Moon in here, so the normal field card still helps you to get out of that late game possibility of losing severely. If you're still with me, we're getting into the actual top deck now, which is the Gholdengo. And this one is where people have a lot of problems. If you're stuck with me here for the Gholdengo analysis, this one will be a bit more in depth. They are always playing on the superior energy retrievals, and this deck is very, very, very item intensive. Meaning, if you can actually get rid of the items or hold them from getting the items, the deck stutters greatly. Yes, now with the addition of Solrock, they can kill your Budew, and it's a bit of a tough matchup because you have to give up a price to sub the items, but you have to remember the recovery items are limited. They only have 4 syringe retrievals, so they are very weak to the one prize matchups because they have to give up a lot of energy just to take the prize. Yes, they have a lot of draw power because of the balloon on a Gholdengo and retreat, and that's 4 cards a turn. And in turns where you knock something out, they can go as high as 7, not counting the 3 they're going to get from Lunatone and all of that. So it's quite easy to see them getting 3 and 3, 6 and 2, 8 and 2, 10 cards from seemingly 1. From discarding a single rock energy, they can gain up to 10 cards. And that's not counting a supporter, not counting Lily or anything else, because again, these are the most common cards in the deck. If we go into the builds, we see in Cypher all of that, Artisan, they are also playing the Watchtower as a top deck, because again, everything under them and normal Pokemon are very much there. Lana's Aid wasn't in the most common cards, but again, this allows them to bring back any combination of energy and basic Pokemon. You're wondering what basic Pokemon? Remember, they are using Lunatone and Solrock a lot, as well as the Hops Cramorant. And they are using Hops Cramorant because in that key middle game position, while in between setting up a Gholdengo, or even fighting against something like a Cornerstone Mask, a Cramorant can actually two-shot a Cornerstone Mask, or between Cornerstone, the Cramorant, and your Solrock, you'll be able to kill it. And that's the key thing. This deck is severely weak to Cornerstone Mask, and that covers that base as well as a good mid-game to throw off the prize race. And how are you going to metagame this? Alright, so first they draw a lot, so the Zero Sec will make them lose a lot of resources. Yes, they have recovery here, but if they use it out or they get enough discarded, they don't have much else. Because once they run to superior energy retrievals, their damage drops severely. So if your deck is a lot of tanky Pokemon on top of the disruption, that's it. Also, because they don't typically run switches, or maybe one switch, once you get the 2 balloons used, you'll be able to actually stick them. Because typically if a balloon goes on, let's say the Gholdengo for sure, and the Genesect, because they don't want to be stuck with Genesect, that leaves them to now be stuck if you pull that second Gholdengo in front to kill that one, or keep it stuck because they need to put the metal energy on it. And again, most decks play 3 or 4 of the metal energy, so it is very crucial for them to actually keep it. And again, beyond that, looking at the energy count in the deck, that gives you the potential for the maximum damage the deck can output. So we're looking at 9, maybe 10 energies. So a 500 output, that knocks out nearly everything. But remember, they don't have access to all 5 energy. They'll need at least 1 on it, meaning they only have 450. And if they spread it, or they are in the grave, that carries down the potential. Because after a big explosive turn, discarding 5 or 6 energy to kill something like a Kanguskhan or any other Pokemon that above 250, they need a retrieval or grass. Because even doing all the draws, the deck only has 10 energy. They ditched 5, that means they have to draw into the other 5, but they'll actually be looking for superior energy retrieval. And yes, even though this will knock out a Budew, if you have enough recovery now to keep bringing out the Budew, remember you have time to set up your own engine on another Pokemon behind to then catch back up. The list in the Gholdengo don't vary too much, because all they're seeking to do is get to those earthen vessels here, and the super retrievers as fast as possible to just run you out. Because if they draw fast enough, they'll get the energy. That's one attack. They just need one more super retrieval to get the second prize, and then a boss with super, draw some cards, and that's how they get their knockouts pretty quick. It seems like there's nothing you could do about it, but that's not really true. It is being able to disrupt their items just after first attack. Because at that point, yes, they can knock on the Budew with just one energy, but that into some disruption, very good. Or even late game, trying to just feed them one prize with Budew into that late game where their hand is really big because they're looking for items, they might boss up something. When their deck is low, a 0-6 shatters the deck because they have all their pieces in their hand, rather than send them to the bottom with an Iono, they lose them and unable to do anything. Picnic Basket is a meta card as well, or anti-meta card, because it heals up everything, including your Pokemon, and makes the Monkey Dories a bit less useful. Because if it is, they have like a 30 damage spread everywhere, and even on your Pokemon, they spread 30 damage on everything. Because even with something like Dragapult and the Monkey Dories, one Picnic Basket clears up your damage and any damage they could potentially put off as well. Because you most likely going to just take a straight knockout with your Gholdengos. So that's a full analysis of the top 10 decks. And again, know your enemy. So when you're playing these matches, keep an eye out and see if you can find the patterns and see how best you can win. Because again, it's luck of the draw. They have to draw it, you have to draw the cards to counter them. But now, we're familiar with cards that would help us against a lot of decks. We just looked at all of these decks and we could see how many cards common in them and what cards can counter so many common cards. So far we need the ability to pull up Pokemon, so boss size counter catchers. We need to stop normal Pokemon because that's in most of the decks. We also need the ability to stop items, meaning Budew. And we also need the ability to attack quickly. So it's not just disruption, we need disruption and a bit of power. Yes, there are other decks in the meta list going down, but again, just with the top 3 decks, you already crossed 50% of the meta. So chances are, half the time you enter this game or in a tournament, you're going to face either Gholdengo, Dragapult, Charizard, Gardevior. Those decks alone take up more than half the matches that you'll see typically. Yes, you'll have some outliers, but chances are much lower. So, really long video, we have timestamps to help, and we'll see about that.